Hello everyone, it's Eric. Thank you for 5,000 subscribers. As both my 5,000 subscriber special and my 100th video, I am reacting to your rap battle matchups. I put out a community post, and I got over 100 comments, many of which with multiple matchups, so we have a lot to go through here. But ultimately, I will look at your matchup, comment on it if I think I have some insight to it, and I will say whether I think it's a good matchup, and whether I think it's something I would do. But don't be discouraged if I say I wouldn't do it. I know very few media franchises in general. I could probably name more African antelope species than media franchises I know a lot about. So, let's jump in. First, from Average Cola Enjoyer, who actually suggested this whole idea to me, Beetlejuice versus the Genie. Actually, so while I would agree it fits my vibe, I have not seen Beetlejuice. I've seen the musical, or a production of it. I tried to watch the film but got way too bored, but that could have been circumstantial. This was quite a few years ago. But I can see this matchup working very well, and there was a fun little connection with the number 3 wishes, say the name 3 times. So yeah, this is a good start. Sorry, that was already showing. Maxiel Bornoz, Judge Doom versus Skitoz Cartoon Trauma. I'm not familiar. I'm pulling up my other monitor to see if I can look up this character. Skitoz Cartoon Trauma. Oh wait, Cartoon Trauma's the connection, isn't it? So the character is Schizo. Song by Travis Scott. That's not what I wanted. Schizo Cartoon. That looks like kind of evil Mickey Mouse. Okay, I see the connection here. That's a good matchup. Just not one I think I'd be able to do. Then Powerpuff Girls versus My Life as Teenage Robots Heroes. I don't know if they're a trio or not. I haven't seen that show. But I do love Powerpuff Girls, so possibly. And then Bozo the Clown versus any horror clown. I don't really know much about Bozo the Clown. This is like 60s character. But I know it was referenced in Seinfeld once. Either way, Art the Clown battle in general sounds fun, so perhaps. And then, sorry, I'd opened to this one earlier. So yeah, also from the same commenter, Happy Tree Friends versus Smiling Critters. Is that Smiling Friends? I've never heard of Smiling Critters. Oh, Poppy Playtime. Of course I haven't heard of that. So yeah, not sure I would do that one. Then Pizza Tower versus Courage the Cowardly Dog. I haven't seen either of those or played, so I can't do that. And then G-Force, that's that Disney guinea pig movie. I ain't doing that, I'm afraid. But this matchup makes sense and is technically good. Alright, now we got AI Full TB09876. He-Man vs. King Arthur. Powerful guys, magic swords and crews. Add in Merlin and Skeletor. I mainly know King Arthur from Monty Python. Never done any He-Man stuff. But this does seem like a good matchup. The magic sword connection is fun. Also, Joe Hendry. I don't know what that is. Let me see. Joe Hendry is WWE? Is that right? What's the connection with Beetlejuice? You gotta comment on that. Anyway, Banksy vs. Jack the Ripper. That is a good one. I really like that idea. Elusive British guys. But, you know, they don't seem like the kind of figures I would cover. Anyway, we got Santa Claus versus Robo Santa. We're going to translate that to English. Alright, Santa Claus versus Robot Santa. I'll look these guys up. So, Santa Claus is, what is this? It's Ed's World. I've never seen Ed's World. And then Robot Santa, Futurama. Okay. Haven't seen either of those, so I don't know if I would do this one. And now we got Kermit the Frog versus Weird Al. Alright, I love Weird Al. I do. So, a Weird Al battle would be awesome. Kermit the Frog, don't know much on. I can see that working. This is my favorite of your suggestions, I would say. Max, if I can call you Max. But, I need to learn more about Kermit the Frog first. Alright, now we got quite the selection here. E-Master, Master Oogway versus Gerson. Okay, so I had the idea of a martial arts mentor royale way back when. We're talking 2022. it would have had Oogway and Iroh and Yoda and Mr. Miyagi and Master Splinter and Sensei Wu. So of all the people that could have been matched with Oogway, it's funny to see Gerson, but I guess Gerson's also an old turtle, so I see the connection. Once again, I'm not really Undertale savvy, so probably wouldn't do that one for a while. Then there's MatPat versus Adam Conover. I don't know anything about Adam Ruins Everything. Cam Sandwich versus Bored James. I will look up Cam Sandwich. I feel like I'm going to get auto-corrected to Ham. Oh, Cam Sandwich is one word. Okay. That's on eMaster. It's Board Game Channel. See a Monopoly. Alright, this I might have to check this channel out. But in the meantime, I don't know for sure. Sam Reich versus Ruff Man. You know, I grew up on PBS Kids, but I've never watched Ruff Man. I'd never heard of it, I don't think, until I saw the Uberosity battle in 2022. That might seem crazy, and it is, but it was just never airing where I was. Alright, Ripley versus Samus. I feel like Metroid is based on Aliens, so that matchup dynamic's a little weird to me. But either way, I don't have the knowledge required on either of those characters to do that one. And then Garfield versus Trollface, without it becoming Gorefield versus Trollge. I mean, look at who you're talking to. I was not going to do a Gorefield battle. I don't even know what Gorefield is. It sounds like saying the name Garfield when you have a bunch of food in your mouth. But either way, I'm not quite sure what the connection is between Garfield and Trollface on their own. Now we have Vlad the Impaler versus St. Nicholas. Those are not historical figures I think I would cover. Eminem versus M&M's. That's been done by ERB10 and cannot be topped. Cold Steel... Magikarp is next. Magikarp versus Klaus from American Dad. Klaus... I've never really watched American Dad, so I'll look that up. Also a goldfish. Okay. I see the connection. Fun. And then Cold Steel versus Ebony Darkness Dementia Ravenway. So I would do a My Immortal battle. That sounds kind of fun, even if terrifying. But I don't really know Sonic OCs, so Cold Steel is not the opponent I would use. And now we have SpongeBob versus Bob Belcher. Classic matchup for sure, I get the idea. I like it, but I have not seen Bob's Burgers. And then Dante of Divine Comedy fame versus Vivzy Pop. No thank you. Forgive the pause, I'm drinking some water. So, when Chris versus Corvus BTD6. With all due respect, don't ask when. This is a matchup suggestion poll, not a I'm doing your matchups poll. Either way, I don't know BTD6. I stopped playing after 5 because I was pretty sure the 6th one was an upcharge. So let me look up Corvus. Okay, magic user looking guy. Okay, I suppose I see the connection, but again, I don't know these characters well enough. And we have... Whoa. Since I like lesser-known characters, Leroy versus Scourge the Hedgehog. Alright, to be clear, just because I like lesser-known characters does not mean I know every lesser-known character. I like them on the condition that I know them. And I've never watched Leroy and Stitch. And also never read Archie Sonic. So, I really can't comment on this matchup. Now we have a few from Shy Nerd, and I'm sorry, I missed the names in those, Mr. Dr. Taco and Staverd Furnace. Shy Nerd said Mr. Grizz from Splatoon versus Leonard from Angry Birds, so Leonard is the pig from the movies, the leader pig. Mr. Grizz does not look intelligent from what I'm seeing here. I don't think he'd be able to rap, but maybe it's a really fun matchup for the different dynamics. So we have Wally versus Repo. I don't know what Repo is, but I like Wally. Hard to incorporate into a rap battle, perhaps, but I do like Wally. KK Slider versus Lo-Fi Girl. That's a good matchup. But I don't think I am equipped to do a matchup with either of those, unfortunately. And then Ruben from Lilo and Stitch versus Scooby-Doo. I've never seen Ruben in Lilo and Stitch. I've definitely watched that movie. I don't believe there was a character named Ruben. I'll look him up. And what is that? It looks like Stitch, but yellow. So, we're just making up characters now. And with all due respect, I think Scooby-Doo deserves a bit more of a notable foe. But that's alright. Alright, now we got quite a few suggestions from Cool Gee. It's actually Cool Guy, but I felt like saying it like that. So, okay. You gave a bunch of franchises and an example matchup for each. Stanley Parable. I don't know what kind of last name Parable is, but I don't know this Stanley fellow. I can't really comment. Hollow Knight, I don't know what the King in Yellow is. That's in some battles, but never really figured out what it is. Pale King, I'm sure it's a great matchup, but I never played Hollow Knight either. Inscription, never played that, so again, can't really comment. I should have asked you guys to give me the connections for all of these. Chants of Sennar, I've never heard of that even. Celeste, I've at least heard of that. A three-way battle, something, alright. Anxiety from Inside Out 2, I know Anxiety. I've seen that movie, so I guess I could see that one working. Slime Rancher, Beatrix LeBeau versus Sandy Cheeks. You know, I do want to do a Sandy battle, because SpongeBob's awesome. And I might have to look into this Beatrix LeBeau character. Then there's Hades with Zagreus versus Adam Eve. I also love Invincible, so sure, Adam Eve battle's on the table. Knives Out, never watched, so I don't, maybe for the sake of spoilers, I shouldn't even read that matchup. Zootopia, the Lynch family versus Thrombly from Knives Out. More Knives Out. Also, there is no Lynch family in Zootopia, last I checked. Give me 1 minute. It has been a little while since I watched that film. Lynch family, Zootopia. It's not... Linksley family from Zootopia 2. Oh, great, now I just spoiled myself for Zootopia 2. Okay. Bad guys? Okay, I actually know bad guys. Thank God. Crimson Paw versus Carmen Sandiego. That is a good matchup. I don't know that much about Carmen Sandiego, but I could see myself doing this one in the future, no doubt. And then Jim Carrey. I am doing a battle with a Jim Carrey character, actually. So, yeah, that could happen. It wouldn't be Bruce Almighty, but I will not spoil which character I have in mind at the moment. Alright, let us go to Mr. Pine YT. Penguins of Madagascar versus the Beatles. I mean, I like both of those things, but I'm not sure I see the connection. And then Jake from State Farm versus Doug from Liberty Mutual. Alright. Doug is not nearly on the same level as Jake from State Farm, so that one's off the table. Riley Mason said Six Flags versus King's Dominion. Which Six Flags? Awesome Aiden, Clark Kent versus Ron Burgundy. It does feel hard to do a battle that's specifically Clark Kent. It's probably possible. I don't know that much Superman either, admittedly. And Anchorman I've not seen in full. But an Anchorman battle is not off the table. Alright, Cherry Seeds. Baymax versus Toothless. I like that matchup. I've written some lines for Baymax before in different contexts from just matchup suggestions. And I've done some How to Train Your Dragon writing him thoughts as well. I do like both movies a bit. I could do that one. I like this idea. And then Metal Sonic versus the Omnidroid. That's a fun matchup. I like that a lot, actually. Omnidroid, I'm not exactly sure how I would portray in a rap battle, but I do like that idea. And, alright, we got a few here. Diego Fox said Jack Pepper from Mouse P.I. versus Spider-Man Noir of Marvel Comics. Jack Pepper. So, okay. I have not ever played Mouse P.I., but I do like Spider-Verse, and Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir is awesome, so maybe. And yeah, it's a fun connection, and thank you for the congrats. Okay, Ruby_Dude55. Gerson versus Doc Hudson. Doc Hudson rap battle would be amazing. I feel like it'd be terrible, but I kind of love the idea. I've seen Cars a lot of times. I don't even know what I would do with Doc Hudson in a rap battle. But, let's see. Old-timers who were legendary, helped to coach. It could work. It really could. It just seems odd at first glance, but I like the suggestion. Turbo Z Robo. Digging up an ancient matchup with Prodigy. No, I never played Prodigy. I played Reflex Math. Thank you very much. I've never seen Total Drama, so I don't know about Mal versus Puppet Master, I'm afraid. And then Tatsugiri versus Mushu. I'll look up Tatsugiri. I assume it's not related to the roller coaster Tatsu. That's a Pokemon. I'm afraid there's no chance. Very sorry. But, very cute little Pokemon there. Alright, we got quite a few from a gaggle of pigeons. Ben 10 versus Ash Ketchum. I'm not a Ben 10 expert, and I'm looking up and I'm starting to see that might be an issue here. Because, once again, Adam E versus Gwen 10. Yeah, not happening, I'm afraid. But I do see these connections generally at first glance. Kevin Levin versus Rexplode. That's probably also a good matchup, but, like, I can't do Ben 10. Then Jobbot. Alright, I'm guessing that one is Ben 10, but I've never heard of Jobbot unless it's, like, some LinkedIn AI. That's... nothing came up. Job Simulator? We're moving on. Commentator bots from Clone Drone and the Danger Zone versus hecklers from the Muppets. Are you referring to Statler and Waldorf? Okay. Let me look up commentator bots. That might give me some insight to this matchup. Clone Drone, commentators. Okay, yeah. Definitely gonna be Statler and Waldorf they're going against. That could be fun. I like a Statler and Waldorf battle as a concept. Alright, there's quite a few more from the gaggle. Buzz Lightyear versus Thrag. I don't see it. I'm very sorry. I like both characters on their own, but I don't think it's just not vibing with me. The Noise versus Nabbit. I don't really know Mario that well, honestly. Like, I wouldn't do a battle with any Mario characters at the moment. But let me see what The Noise is. The Noise... from Pizza Tower? Okay, sure. I see the connection here. Then Kinger versus the Emperor, also from Clone Drone and the Danger Zone. As fun as that name is to say, I still don't know it. Clone Drone and the Danger Zone. Alright, Immortal versus Homelander. I see what you're going for. Omni-Man versus Homelander is a very common matchup, so you try to mix it up a little bit. And it's probably a bit of a closer fight in terms of actual battle. But... I just don't see it. And Matt P. Wheels, Nostalgia Critic versus Anthony Fantano. I'm just not very Anthony Fantano savvy, but Nostalgia Critic battle could be fun for sure. Now, Snakebite126 coming in with the worst suggestion yet. Dollars versus cents. Let me see if the replies are anything of note. Yeah, yes versus no, rap versus battle. I like those better. But unironically, if I were to do dollars versus cents, it probably would have a third-party Apple Pay or something like that. Or credit card, even. I feel like we're past credit cards at this point, unfortunately, as a society. We're now at Apple Pay being it. But either way, bad matchup. And I'm going to beat Benjamin in Brawl very soon. Now, oh no. So, Donut Lord, thank you for doing that awesome art in Hibbos vs. Rhinos, but I'm not doing a Ibuki Miyota battle. There's no chance. I'm gonna guess that the best matchup here, Jar Jar Binks probably. A Jar Jar Binks battle that's serious, sounds kind of fun. But, yeah, I don't know. Chong from Avatar, he's, one of the secret tunnels guy, the main secret tunnels guy. Ibuki's a musician, so I guess it works. I don't know why I'm entertaining this, though. I'm not going to be doing that. And then Polygon Man, I don't know what that is, I'm afraid. And Pepsi Man, I don't know the lore of Pepsi Man. But I wouldn't rule out a Pepsi Man battle. And then with the Witch, Gooey from Kirby versus King from Owl House. I've not seen Owl House, but I already know that I'd be doing a Hootie battle if I were to do an Owl House battle. And then Gooey from Kirby. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's fun. I like this design. Alright, I like that. The Man Files. Baldy versus the Number Taker. The Number Taker wouldn't be from, the theater that the Commander Jacob battle has. Let me look up the Number Taker. What? Numberjacks? Okay, that's interesting, but I don't know what that is. Hyperflow. Astrobot versus Rob. Modern gaming robot mascot versus Retro. That sounds great. Just one question. What is Astrobot? I've seen this before. I will have to rule that one out, most likely. Okay. Bad Chad 2009 says Nate Wright versus Greg Heffley. Okay. I've thought of that matchup for years. Before I was even making battles, I was like, yeah, Freshie Canal should do that. But, they're kind of similar. I don't know if I'll ever actually end up doing that matchup. I would not rule out doing a matchup with either one of them. Like, I think a Nate Wright battle could be in my future, but probably not those two together. And then Vox versus Mr. Puzzles, simply not in my wheelhouse. And Bubble Bass versus Comic Book Guy, I believe that has been done fairly recently by Mr. J. And I do like the matchup. It is kind of in my wheelhouse, but I don't think I'd want to do the same matchup. And it was done well already. Noah Bosquet. Oh, sorry, that was from Amari Beckford. So Noah Bosquet says Nate from Yokai Watch versus Ben from Ben 10. I see the connection, but still no Ben 10 for me and even less Yokai Watch knowledge. Now, Hayden O says yes versus no versus maybe, where yes is a bold, arrogant male, no a calmer British gentleman, and then maybe is a snarky female. I think I'll go back to dollars versus cents now that I think about it. Yeah, I don't think this matchup's personally for me. Okay. Magica Dispel from DuckTales versus Scarlet Witch. I don't have a lot of Marvel lore outside of some MCU films under my belt, so I don't think I could do like most Marvel characters. Quicksilver versus Bullets. That's a terrible matchup. Oh my god. I'm not doing that. Assuming we're talking about the object Bullets and not a character. Since you lowercase it, I'm assuming this is a joke battle idea. Daisy Johnson. Alright, we're just saying anyone's a Marvel character now. John Smith is a Marvel character. Versus Gwen Stacy from Spider-Verse. I'll take your word that that's a good matchup. Crimson Paw versus Carmen Sandiego. Okay, evidently this is a popular matchup. It's been suggested more than once. And I was going to say there's 100 total people, but there's way less because of the gaggle of pigeons. So I might have to do this one. And Miguel O'Hara versus Dracula. You know, I had the idea of doing Miguel O'Hara versus Mr. Peabody because there's the canon event stuff for Miguel, and then for Mr. Peabody, they go back in time to make sure history happens the way it's supposed to, where it's always like, yes, Sherman, we have to make sure the Titanic steers right into the iceberg. Something like that. And, I'm not sure I see the Dracula connection. I know they talk about him being, vampire, but we don't really see much of that in Spider-Verse yet. I would wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse before I made a Miguel battle anyway, I think. Alright, Black Cat versus Catwoman. I know you meant to say Catwoman is DC, but I don't know Black Cat. Martha versus Alphabet Soup. Oh boy. Zubul versus Mr. Potato Head. I have a weird feeling that some of the last matches might have just been out of frame. My bad if that's the case. Anyway, Zubul versus Mr. Potato Head is a fun matchup. I like that idea. Maybe when Digital Circus finishes and Toy Story 5 comes out. Yeah, I could do that one. I really could. Geico Gecko versus Limu Emu. Oh my god, I said emu. No, it's pronounced emu. I know it rhymes with Limu the other way, but the bird is an emu. Anyway, so the gecko versus the emu is a good idea. I like the emu a lot better than Doug, but I probably wouldn't do insurance battles. And then, I guess it would be like some premium content, but I wouldn't do insurance rap battles of money. And then Hippos versus Rhinos rematch. Now that's a good matchup idea. Christmas versus Easter. Now that's a bad matchup idea. Angel from Amazing Digital Circus. Who's Angel? I'm so sorry. I've seen all of it and I don't remember. I'm gonna look that up as I drink some water. What? I've seen that. I don't remember the third episode as well as I thought I did. Okay. Versus The Scream by Edward Munch? What? I know that painting, but I'm not doing that. ARC Raiders versus Raiders of the Lost Ark. I've never seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. But you know what? I will see that someday. And then Eddie FRB versus Freshie Canal. I simply could not do that. Now we have Keon Paquette. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. VeggieTales versus Sausage Party. So I've never seen Sausage Party, but I will say this is a really good matchup. Yeah, the connections. Wholesome kids show against raunchy adult movie, and both about food. I do like that. Okay, Zuko vs. Papyrus. I've seen this matchup around a lot, but I don't know the connection. Red-themed brothers, main goal capturing somebody who hasn't been seen in forever. Okay, so I guess Papyrus wants to capture the human, and Zuko wants to capture the Avatar. You know, I could be the one to do this. I've done some good Avatar The Last Airbender battles, in my opinion, so I could do a Zuko one. And The Real Lario. Alright, we got a few here. Ed, and Eddie versus Heathers. Yeah, I see the connection, but I don't know if I could. I don't know if that really works. Okay, Am versus I Hate Everything. I don't know if I would try to one-up Danny's Am battle against a YouTuber or at least internet personality. I don't know what Loves Your God does, but this is not a bad matchup. Then Tenna versus Pizza Head. Don't really know much about that. Pizza Time versus TV Time. That's like Spider-Man Pizza Time, I assume. All right, Dr. Doofenshmirtz versus Eggman. That is a good matchup. I have thought about that, but I have already done an Eggman battle, and while it's not amazing, you know, I don't know if I'm ready to repeat characters. Maybe someday, though. Kane versus Sonic.exe. They both trap people in their games and see themselves as gods. I get the idea there. It is fun. I won't do a Sonic EXE battle personally, but I do think it's a good matchup. Metal Sonic versus Clone Riggy from Dano Draws Short Wars. Clones of the Blue Rival. Robotic Clone versus Living Clone. I'll look up Clone Riggy. I do want to understand that, because I like Metal Sonic, and we got to see if we can one-up that Omnidroid matchup. Oh, wait. I think I've heard of this. It's like Ricky the Runky, because, I saw a Community battle way back when against Dat Boy with Ricky the Runky. Either way, Springtrap versus Zebo the Clown. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Never. Well, I am afraid of the dark, but I've never seen it. Both were in entertainment business, committed crimes, got into a fun house that burnt down. Seems like a very strong connection. Came back as robot. Did Springtrap rip off Are You Afraid of the Dark? Alright, Beavis and Butthead versus Bridge Kids. Hated by mostly everyone, dumb, take action, just follow along most of the time. I don't know Bridge Kids, but a Beavis and Butthead battle is a good idea. Then, The Mask versus the Haunted Mask. Green masks that, when put on, take over the person wearing it. That is an excellent matchup. If I'm not mistaken, they actually both came out around the same time as well, the Mask movie and the Haunted Mask book. And last summer I did read every Goosebumps book, so yeah, a Goosebumps battle's definitely in the cards. This is definitely a solid suggestion. Now, Little Lynx. Alright, we got an intro. We're both people who use obscure characters, less of an outright matchup suggestion and more of a trying to nail down what makes a good matchup. Okay, characters I use, likely a side character, not one you immediately think to use. If they are a main character, they maybe have a bit of mystery or fantastical elements. That's a fair point. One of the characters is from family-friendly media. That is a guarantee. And they have no more than 2 battles already. I'd be surprised if they had more than 1. Alright, so with that, some matchups. Cap'n from Animal Crossing versus Charon from Hades. I don't personally know these characters well. I know Cap'n the assist trophy. Verminator versus Chantal Dubois. Okay, I do love Madagascar 3, so I could do this matchup if I watched Over the Hedge. I do think this is a good matchup for sure. I like that. That is a very me kind of matchup too. So well done, Lynx, you nailed that one on the head. As for this one, oh my god, I'm not doing a Shakespeare battle, I'm sorry. But Puck versus Dr. Hakim from the song It Takes Two? I gotta look up Dr. Hakim. Uh, Came up with actual doctors, I'm afraid. Let's see here. What is that? Okay. MHG got 10 matchups. Alright, Flippy from Happy Tree Friends versus Toko Fukawa. Neither franchise, I'm afraid, is something I would touch, at least as of now. Tenna versus Mr. Puzzles. I feel like I've seen Vox go against Tenna and Mr. Puzzles, but never those two against each other. So this makes sense. 3DS versus Wii U. That's a Wii U stomp if I've ever seen one. Knife from Annoying Orange versus Scissors from Paper Mario Origami King. Haven't played Paper Mario, but sounds like a kind of fun idea. Cookie Clicker battle, I'm afraid not happening, but Cookie Monster's a fun character to have. The Water Cooler from Deltarune versus Brombus from Racks to Flip Notes. Okay. Susie from Kirby versus Susie from Deltarune. Is there anything to that besides a same name matchup? This one feels weird, I don't know. Like, sometimes same name matchups are fun to say, but Susie versus Susie just doesn't work for me. The Boss from Shorts Wars versus Ditto from Pokemon. So I have a strange sneaking suspicion that the Boss from Shorts Wars can shapeshift into anyone. Okay, I can't find out what is. I'm not clicking on a full wiki, I'm sorry. But hey, that's cool. Do the Flop versus Laboman. If I knew more about Cardboard, sure. I like Do the Flop guy. Stanley from Stanley Parable, still not something I know. Versus Pocoyo. I did love Pocoyo growing up, so I might have to look into that one. Josiah H. Ortiz. We have Brian Griffin from Family Guy versus Ryan Howard from The Office. Both start out as nice guys, but as the show went on, they became hated by their peers and the viewer. I have not seen much of The Office. Let me look up Ryan Howard. Ryan Howard is a baseball player, so I don't know about that. Okay. Sure. Alright. Ian suggested Mariana Mordegard Glesgroff versus the King in Yellow. What is the King in Yellow? I don't know this. I don't know this stuff. I'm not looking these up. It's going to take too long to type. I'm sorry, Ian. I'm sure it's an amazing matchup, but this is just not one that I can do. Wingdings versus Morse Code. Okay, I've heard of Morse Code, but I don't know it. Thank you, Nilo Olin. It is kind of a fun matchup, but I need a little more substance than that even. Alright, another. Hey, we just had this. So again, not doing that. Sorry, Pluenticus. Pinocchio versus Slappy. Okay, another of the Goosebumps matchups. Wooden dolls, polar opposites in personality. I like that. A Slappy battle makes a lot of sense because he does have a lot of personality in the books. This one's possible. Alright, Kane and Bubble versus MC Ballyhoo and Big Top. I don't know what that is. Stitch versus Sableye. A lot of Lilo and Stitch in here. Are there not any Lilo and Stitch battles already out? But yeah, so I'm not doing a Pokemon battle, I'm afraid. Power Wash Simulator versus the Exterminator. This sounds like a fun matchup, but again, not ones I know well. I'll get more water real quick. John Tomfooleries says Castle Crashers versus Lego Ninjago. You know what? I've heard the name Castle Crashers a lot, and I love Ninjago. So I'm going to look up Castle Crashers real quick. It is... Okay. I'm looking at these characters and I can see the connection. I like this idea. Fonoa My Pookie. Susie versus Natsuki. Go to Gaming Plush and tell them that matchup, man. The Baker from Cookie Clicker. It's a lot of... 2 Cookie Clicker? What? Versus Ginger Brave. Alright, are you doing these? No. Did I say them? Yes. Fair enough. That is fair enough. Alright, Object Shoe Guy. Nurse Dolly from, Silence of the Mutton? I don't know what SOTM is. Versus Nurse Joy from Pokemon. I know Nurse Joy. I'll look up Nurse Dolly. FNAF. start of the morning? Is that Secret of the Mimic? Oh, yes, I have heard of that. I'm sorry, you guys gotta use... You can't use acronyms on things I've never heard of. Anyway, another Stanley narrator versus Airy from Hydrophone. And Squidward versus Pear. I see the connection there. Someone's done SpongeBob versus Annoying Orange. This one does make sense. I don't really know Annoying Orange, but I could do it. But this one, alright, I like this. John Arbuckle versus Steve from Blue's Clues. That's really fun. They both, kind of talk to their pets, but don't actually understand them. And there was a bit of a disconnect there, because Garfield we can understand. This is a good one. I do like that matchup a lot. And I have been thinking about Blue's Clues battles. Mr. Frog, Ina versus Bitter Giggle, that's a Shamario matchup, I believe. And, or should be anyway. Then Gabriel Haxor. Oh, you weren't in the days of Old Jofinity. He did Oversimplified versus Salmonella. And I have not really seen videos from either of them much. But I'm sure it's a great matchup if it's been done before. And is being suggested again years later. Now we have Just a Square Dude. Anka versus King Dedede. Let me see. I don't know Anka. I will look this one up because King Dedede is not off the table. Anka from Animal Crossing. Okay. Snooty Cat Villager. I see the connection there. Probably not doing, though. Alright, Mismatched 2. Gru versus Wheatley from Portal. There's a lot of Gru matchups out there. I don't really know if I would do Portal. Asgore versus Petey the Cat? What's the connection there? There's a long list here, so I'm not going to go into great detail on these, I'm afraid. L versus M, never seen James Bond, or Death Note, actually. Captain Dubois versus Millicent Clyde from Paddington. That's good. That's really good. I feel like there's a clearer connection even than with Verminator, though I wonder if Millicent Clyde is not a well-known enough character. And I know I'm saying that as the guy who did the Slope Dude battle, but something just seems off about a battle with her. Postman Pat versus Fireman Sam. I grew up on Fireman Sam. Another Gerson versus Oogway. Bumbo Jumbo versus Borat. Elsa versus Noelle. From what I know about Noelle, that sounds kind of distasteful. Dumbo versus Horton. That's fun. I like elephants a lot. And a Horton battle's a great idea. Hermione Granger, I'm not gonna do a Harry Potter battle ever, I'm afraid. My Immortal maybe, but not that. And against Ralsei, I suppose, sure. I've never seen the bear, but I can only imagine this is a great matchup. Then Manny versus Shrek, Diego versus Scar? Huh. One of them's like hero, other villain. I guess I kind of see the idea. I don't know. Wreck-It Ralph versus Heavy TF2. That's a fun idea. I've never played TF2, though. And then Joy versus Ale. I can't do that. Mr. Krupp versus PC Principal. I do like South Park, but I don't think I'm the best person to write a South Park battle, unfortunately. And then Turbo versus Lightning McQueen. Now that's a matchup. Very good idea. Ghosty, Captain Falcon versus All Might. They're muscular men that say what move they say their move. I see what you mean, like Falcon Punch, and that's good. And then Ibuki Miyota, not happening, Donut Lord. This is your alt, isn't it? I'm just kidding. But Ibuki versus Prism. They're both musicians with colors blue and pink. That would be very good for someone who's good at editing, I think. Having a consistent color palette, it's a fun idea. Now we have Soup Bucket. The Cat God versus Master Eon. I don't know Skylanders very well, and I don't think I've ever heard of Battle Cats, I'm sorry. And, okay, got a few from Wiltos. Akinator versus the Genie. I find them a bit too similar in appearance, and I don't know if I would do an Akinator battle. It's kind of fun. There are ideas there. I kind of like this matchup, but also think maybe Genie versus Genie just doesn't sound right. The Auditor from Madness Combat. I don't know Madness Combat. Versus the Roaring Knight. Don't really know that either. And Craigie the Creek versus Hello Neighbor. Both have stories in neighborhoods. Technically, most stories are in neighborhoods, but I do like Craigie the Creek, so it could happen. Anton versus the Brave Little Toaster. Obvious connection. I don't remember who Anton is. Hang on. Oh, right. Anton is the toast. I see. I mean, the connection's not obvious if you don't know the acronym off the top of your head for Amazing World of Gumball and know who Anton is, so I don't know. It's not that obvious. But either way, I don't know about Toaster versus Toast. Cuphead versus Pepsi Man. I don't know Pepsi Man once again. Cuphead Devil versus Bill Cipher. I'm not doing a Bill Cipher battle. I have to rule that out. There's already two really good ones, and Mr. Pool Check's more my forte. And Yes versus No. How have we gotten that suggested multiple times? Papa Louie versus Bob Belcher. I like the idea. Blue versus Spooky. I don't know Spooky, and there's already a great Spooky battle, so I'm not sure about that. Also never watched Foster's. Alright, Ina versus Cat Dog. Alright, funny enough, that connection actually is kind of obvious, but only if you know what Ina looks like. And 000 Da Bomb. Steve Urkel versus Birdly. I've never watched Family Matters. That's the show with Steve Urkel, right? But I like the matchup from what I do know about these characters. And it could be fun if I do that. Alright, Austin the Mimic. Sorry, it says Austin Dimmick. Looks like the same comment accidentally got posted multiple times. Let me make sure these are the same. Yep, that happens sometimes. Internet issue. Crazy Dave versus BFDI. Nope, sorry. Not doing any object show battles. If I got my 10-year-old brother, maybe he would do it, but I'm not going to do an object show battle, I'm afraid. And then Heather and Alejandro versus Dexter and Dee Dee. Who are Heather and Alejandro? I will look this up, but I'm pretty sure they're not from the Heathers films, so... Heather, Alejandro... Oh, Total Drama. Yeah, I don't really know Total Drama. Alright, so we're going to scroll past the rest of the Dimmicks Mimics, as I'll call those comments. Another from Hayden O. Nabbit versus Jax. I could see myself doing a Jax battle, but I don't know Nabbit. Jeff the Killer versus John the Baptist. Okay, guys, the religion thing was a once-off for April Fools. I wouldn't do a Jeff the Killer battle, but I was not expecting a suggestion like this. It's probably not a bad one technically, but I wasn't expecting that. That's from Jonah Archive. Anyway, Funky Street Pop, Funky Saint Pop, Funkiest Pop. Why I see the ST is something different. Funkiest Pop, the unknown from Willy Wonka's Chocolate Starry from Dead by Daylight versus Zoroark from Pokemon. Can't do Pokemon, I'm afraid. Then James Gordon Jr. from DC versus Melon from BeatStars.com. Sorry, BeatStars. I don't really know either of those either. Then the Smile Tapes versus the Smile Movie. Okay, I'm familiar with the film Smile. I will look up the Smile Tapes. Let's take a look here. TV program. This looks like the Mandela Catalog. Interesting, That's a really cool idea. I don't think I'm the right person to do it, but it's cool. Alright, the Unmitigated Dawn. The Very Hungry Caterpillar versus the Rainbow Fish. I don't know if I would ever try to one-up the previous Caterpillar battles, but I haven't heard the name The Rainbow Fish in a long time. That's a fun one. I'm going to reread that book after I'm done recording this video, actually. That is a great idea. Thank you for that suggestion. Books Melons, Terry Pratchett versus J.K. Rowling. Okay, so I will not do a J.K. Rowling battle, but disregarding that, this is interesting to me, because I had not heard of Discworld until really recently, but maybe I'll read that. Maybe I'll look into Terry Pratchett. Alright, Mr. Cheese Louise, I'm guessing that's how you'd pronounce that for the rhyme. The King in Yellow, once again. I need to look up the King in Yellow. Okay, fine, I'm biting the bullet. I will look up the King in Yellow right now. Comes up right away. It's a book from 1895. Influenced H.P. Lovecraft. Reading it drives people to madness and despair. Sounds like a Danganronpa kind of thing. Against the man with the yellow hat. Alright, that's fun. I like the idea there. If I knew the king in yellow, I might say yes to this one in an instant. Sea Beast Gold Gold gave me 19 matchups. Alright, we're gonna go through these fast. Cat Noir vs. Green Lantern, blonde, cocky superheroes. Wait, when is Green Lantern blonde? Alright, Superman 2025. I've not seen that, actually. Never seen Miraculous in a rap. Oh, you gotta check out Darth Vader vs. Hawkmoth. Highly recommend. Interesting. Another Cat Noir versus Shazao. Captain Underpants versus Dr. Dimension Pants. I never watched Dr. Dimension Pants. El Tigre versus Tigress. I never watched El Tigre either. Give me one sec here. Leo the Lion versus Simba. If Leo's a copy, I don't think I would do that matchup. The obviously superior version going against the inferior isn't the best dynamic. Alright, Timmy Turner versus no Shimmer and Shine. Gru versus Megamind. That is a good matchup. I don't know how that hasn't been done before. There are some Megamind battles I should note, but not like full video ones, I don't think. Alright, Neo Cortex versus Crash Bandicoot. No, I'm sorry, Neo Cortex versus Megamind, my bad. Never played Crash Bandicoot, is what I meant to say. Bob versus Ditto. I kind of see the idea. I don't know if I wouldn't do a Bob battle. I have other Seth Rogen characters in mind. Chihiro, not from Spirited Away, versus Miss Tarantula. Of all the bad guys characters, she's like the last one I would use. I can't do that one. Wildstyle versus Wildfire. I mean, I really do like Wildstyle, but I mean, I haven't seen the most recent seasons of Ninjago, which I'm assuming this character is from. So I don't know. I don't think I can do that one. Ra, the Noisy Lion versus Daniel Tiger of Neighborhood fame, I guess. Alright, Jake and the Neverland Pirates versus Santiago of the Seas. Similar shows, different networks. Santiago could be a copycat. If that's the case, I wouldn't do it. Jax versus Alistair. What? Smiles are similar? Okay, that's kind of a connection. It's just, that's not where my mind goes when I think of Jax matchups. Vox versus Mr. Puzzles. Okay, I've discussed that. Invader Zim versus Invader Zim versus Stitch. I do like Zim. I could do this one. Then Lloyd Garmadon versus Slugterra. Oh my god. Eli Shane from Slugterra. Gosh, I remember playing this one online game of Slugterra. I never watched the show, but I loved the game. He collected the spores or whatever. That's kind of fun. Sid the Sloth versus Pronto, also from Slugterra. Gotta revisit Slugterra, I guess. And then Powerpuff Girls versus Powerpuff Girls Z. I wouldn't put them against each other, and I haven't seen Powerpuff Girls Z, but perhaps. Alright. XX Hayden XX. Joanna Lopez missing versus the Max Headroom incident. We gotta get some sort of spooky battle on the channel. Well, I got Jersey Devil versus Phantom of the Opera. Connection, obscure, unsolved, disturbing TV mysteries. Both are obscure. You make battles with obscure characters. Okay, to be clear, Max Headroom is known by every person in the rap battle community except me. I'm pretty sure a dozen people have made battles with him, and I hadn't heard of him until I joined the community. So, not my kind of obscure character, I'm afraid, Hayden. Alright, Men in Shoes. Oh Really versus Foxy by Eddie FRB. Are you suggesting I remake the battle by Eddie FRB? Alright, Alex Romero. Congratulations, thank you for the start. That's very nice to begin with. And, alright, Undyne versus Misty Luggins. Alright, so that's the police chief from Bad Guys. Commissioner, actually. That's good. I like this idea. I wonder if maybe their voices, just based on what I remember from the Dustin Undyne battle, are too similar, but I like the idea. Bastion from Overwatch versus Roz. Okay, I have a wild robot battle in mind, but I'm already pretty set on the matchup, and I don't think I would use an Overwatch character ever. Okay, The Lamb versus Death. That just sounds like the average slaughterhouse if you ask me, but I don't really know either of these games, I'm afraid. The Neighbor versus Jimmy Hall. That's cool. I feel like a lot of characters do fit this description, though, and I don't know either game. Osmosis Jones versus White Blood Cell U1146. Okay. I've not seen Osmosis Jones, but I feel like that is very up my alley, so I will look up Cells at Work. It's a manga. Okay, I'm not quite sure I would be able to get into this, just from what I'm seeing here. But thank you for the idea. Okay, Snakebite versus PowerPoint rap battles. That is a terrible matchup. I'll probably make that one, though, and it'll be out in a few weeks at most. Anyway, the God Ivy. Oh, that was from Dengus the Mate Ball Master. The God Ivy. Just want to see a battle where the characters throw out compliments instead of disses. How no one does it yet? Okay, yeah, that is a fun idea. I could see myself doing that for like an April Fool's or similar, but I do think making a whole series called Epic Glazing Competitions of History wouldn't really stick. And it's easier to come up with satisfying, clever disses than it is clever compliments, I feel. And I don't know why the human mind is like that, but Bubbles versus Iroh for an epic compliment battle is a very fun idea. Symbiotic Spider, Ed, Edd and Eddy versus Heathers. How on earth has that been suggested multiple times? Aqua Teen Hunger Force versus fast food mascots. I do love the idea of that being the title of a battle. Like you have this show and then just an amalgamation of all fast food mascots. Sweet Tooth versus Ben and Jerry. This weird like racing character versus real people is a very odd idea to me, but I suppose I do like ice cream, so I could do this one. All right, MC Escher. I'm going to look up this MC Escher because I know MC Hammer, of course. A graphic artist. Oh wow, this stuff's cool. Okay, I like this guy's work, but I don't think I can do him justice. All right, out-of-the-box matchup from Mr. Fazbear. Thank you, Mr. Fazbear. Patrick Star versus Ronald McDonald. Funny connection, and that is Undertale, huh? All right, both of their voices are used for two characters. So Patrick is theorized and not confirmed. Ronald is confirmed. So Sans' voice, I have heard of this for Patrick, sure. And Flowey's voice is sampled from a Ronald McDonald commercial. There's also other smaller connections, both goofy, funny, customer of burger joint, mascot. Yeah, okay. All right, there's, okay, give me a sec. I need a lot of water. So, this is a big comment. April Fools. I might have to read all this later. Gaggle of Pigeons returns. Rap God versus Battle Beast. Alright, this is weird. Battle Beast is awesome. He's one of my favorite Invincible characters. He is what the cool kids say is aura. So, is Rap God the song? Like, the song by Eminem? Because I would love to do a Battle Beast matchup, but I need to understand what the connection is with a song. And just a song being represented. I don't know. Alright, Ironically Edgy, Zuko vs. Papyrus, I mentioned that one. User, 32, whatever. Donkey from Shrek versus Mater from Cars. I don't think I want to do a Mater battle, I'm afraid. Jack Jack Studios, Courage vs. Scooby-Doo. There's a death battle of that, isn't there? But yeah, that is a fun idea. If I knew Courage the Cowardly Dog, I might do it. Alright, then KN Tan, the Gruffalo versus Shrek. Okay, actually that's fun, because I know the Gruffalo. I've read the book, and I do think that's a really fun idea. I like this one a lot, honestly. Could definitely do it. Then there's me versus Talon Fitness. Is the contrast that one of us does fitness and the other doesn't? Because, I need to look up Talon Fitness, I suppose. I don't know if I can match up. Okay, you know what? I will be checking this guy out after this video. I'm very curious now. Alright, the sequel, so this is from Norman Humans. The sequel to Hippos vs. Rhinos, known as Jellyfishes versus Octopuses. I don't think jellyfish should be the most fun for a battle, but this is not a bad matchup. And then, finally, DGB. Nokotan from my dear friend Nokotan versus Noel from Deer Tarun. Deer. I like deer. Deer are a fun animal. Not a bad matchup. Could do it. But I would have to play Deltarune first. And I suppose that concludes. I've gone through every matchup. This was kind of draining. I should have asked you guys all to give connections so I wasn't just going past some matchups without knowing what they were. I'm sorry about that. But regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give your thoughts on anything I said in this video, and please don't suggest any more matchups to me for the foreseeable future. I'll see you next time.